Welcome to the Transforming Lives panel podcast. I am your host, Sharmin Prince, and I'm alone. Mitzi's not here. And we have a guest, but before we continue, I want you to join us in a few minutes of deep breathing so that we can be centered and grounded together for the next 45 minutes. So take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, in and out. In and out. And as you take this next inhale, think about the things that happened today and that can prevent you from being grounded, centered, and present. And let it go on the exhale. Take a deep breath in and let go. In again and let go. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I want you to meet Jesseca, a registered nurse turned holistic healer. She's an intuitive coach and spiritual guide. After a profound dark night of the soul in 2021, she discovered the transformative power of spiritual and natural healing, overcoming debilitating depression and stepping into a life of joy and purpose. Now, as a PhD candidate in metaphysical sciences and the founder of her own holistic practice, Jesseca blends science, intuition, and soul-led wisdom to help others heal and thrive. Through her gifts as a healer and powerful storyteller, she empowers people to find inner peace, reclaim their health, and connect with their highest selves. Whether through her coaching, writing, or this podcast, her mission is simple: to guide you through abundance, body, soul, and spirit. Jesseca, would you like to add anything to that?
Nothing that I could think of at the moment. I mean, I guess I always think that healing is always unexpected in terms of how you turn out to be or what you overcome and how you heal. And when you truly allow healing to surrender to, your pain and to God, a lot of unexpected things happen, and beliefs and views on yourself and the world can change. And I don't know, that's just something that I've experienced personally. And I wish for everyone, as many humans as possible too, as well. And I still have, a lot of work to do, but it's a never ending process. We're always evolving as human beings, and it never ends.
Thank you. And I'm happy that you shared a piece of your personal journey, because that's where I wanted to start. What was that event situation that occurred in 21 that created that transformative move for you?
Well, I've had many life experiences that were transformative, and many times in the past I would reject them and I wouldn't question them and think differently. I would take a negative route instead of seeing, maybe this is something trying to my soul or God trying to get me to be curious. It was, over COVID, I worked a lot, and I worked night shift, and I wasn't very mentally stable. I was drinking, and I was not at work, but after work. It's being in the medical field in Western medicine is it's a very demanding and stressful job. And I work so much and I made so much money too. And that was the first time I experienced a lot of money. I grew up kind of poor and, put myself through college and then worked to be middle class income. And then I experienced having large amounts of money. And I always thought that having money was the answer to all my problems, and that as soon as I had all these things, these materialistic things, and all these clothes and all of these cars or whatever, that I would feel better. And I was working so much and I was just really tired and super stressed, and I just had a lot of self-hatred. And I was thinking, why am I not satisfied? Why don't I feel okay even with all of this stuff? And I thought, kill yourself. I didn't do it, thank goodness. I took a step back and I was like, wait, why am I thinking that? I don't want to do that. And that whole experience of experiencing things that I thought would be the answer to my problems and experiencing things that I thought were going to fix me and not having the results that I thought that it would be. I thought all these external things, all these things outside would make me feel better about myself. And I question, why don't I feel good even with all of this money and all of this stuff and, et cetera, et cetera. And then things just naturally started coming into my life that helped me. But it was just kind of later in life, after a lot of self-exploration, a lot of curiosity, and a lot of reading and a lot of guidance and listening from people that are, have more life experience than I do, and just being a little bit open to hearing other things is just really helped me out in my healing journey. And I still have so much healing to do, but where I was even 3 years ago, it's by far incredible how far I've come in my mindset and the way I think and the way I feel about myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that story.
Thank you for listening.
Of course, that's why we're here. As a former nurse, how did your medical training, I just have to ask this question. How did your medical training clash with who you are as a holistic healer right now?
Well, I've had a lot of personal experiences of my own of healing, and I've seen a lot of things. I've seen and I've done a lot of things. I've never been to war. I'm not in the military, but I have seen some things that are just, I can't compare it to war, but I feel like things that you see in the hospital are only something that you'd see in a war zone. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even know what that's like, but we experience so many things as human beings. And a lot of things happen to our body. And there was wiser spiritual teachers and healers than me that kind of inspired this knowing within myself. As if I have something going on with my body, or someone's experiencing something with their body, if I or another person allow, a parasite or some kind of infection to be introduced into the body, then I can, or the other person, they are capable to heal itself. And it's a big belief of mine that we can heal ourselves as human beings. And it's contrary to what Western medicine teaches us, that we have to take all these medications, that we have to do all this surgery. And I'm not saying to not go to the hospital. It's important. Western medicine is another aspect of healing, but it's not the doctors and it's not the medication that does the healing. It's the body. And what is it within the body that heals it? It's there, there are things within our body, like our autonomic nervous system, that allows and makes our lungs breathe and our heart beat and our intestines to do all the things that they need to do, and our muscles to move without us even thinking about it. But what drives that? And that's an inner intelligence that God gave us. Many humans in this, especially even more so in this modern time, and with a society in place where there's hierarchies and there's a society with a financial aspect, their economic structure, we step away from our intuition, we step away from our natural abilities to know, and to know how to work with our bodies, and to know how to heal things, and not just with our bodies, but with the herbs from the earth. There are natural things that are put on this earth by God to help us heal ourselves. And a lot of native traditions and the way native people lived within the original America and in Africa and other places like South America, these tribes, they knew how to live among nature. No tribe was ever sick. There, before society, before a modern time, before there was, before Spain came over to change things in the US or the Americas, before, there was no illness. And how many animals do you see sick? There's animals that get sick, but most animals are healthy and they don't wash their hands. They don't do anything. They're free. They're present and they're happy and they're focused on joy. And that is our nature as human beings. And we get sick because of our focus. We get sick, and I am nowhere by near perfect at this. And I am still a novice to this. I'm still a student myself, learning about holistic ways of naturally healing ourselves. But it's a capability with all human beings to heal themselves and to work with their mind to fix things in their body. But it's our belief that we're taught, and it was my belief for a long time, that we need medication and that we have to go to the hospital and we have to give birth in the hospital. And it's not like that. Did that answer your question?
What was that thing other than the depression? What was that thing that caused the paradigm shift for you in your belief system?
Definitely just learning about the effects of trash and the amount of trash that we create on Earth, and the amount of trash that Western medicine contributes to polluting the earth. Me individually as a nurse, working as a nurse, I would create 6 to 8 very large bags of trash every single shift I worked. I took care of thousands of people, and I worked on the floor for about 6 or 7 years, 3 to 5 days a week. And if that adds up, just the amount of trash that I've polluted into this earth. And ever since it was over 20, where I had a little bit more time, because it's kind of ironic, because at the beginning of COVID, I actually didn't work for 3 months, because as soon as everything was shut down and there was, a container for people to just stay inside, I had an injury and I couldn't work. So I was home by myself for the first time. Like, I recently got divorced, living by myself it was the first time that I ever was alone, where I didn't have school and I didn't have to work. I've been working since I was a little girl, and I've been in school since I was 5. So I've always had some kind of place I had to be, some kind of responsibility. And even though, my attitude has definitely changed, because I had to do these things. This is just what my father expected me to do. I would blow a lot of things off. I would still go, but I know I didn't always have the best behavior. But as I've grown in age, I've grown more in maturity and stuff like that. But it was the first time where I had time to really sit with myself and really think about things, ever since I was probably 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And over that time, I self-reflected a lot, and I didn't really know how to process my emotions. And I had a really difficult time. And I watched a lot of documentaries about the earth and just things that are going on. And it really scared me. And it really sat in my heart of, we're stewardship. We're supposed to have the stewardship with this earth. And I think it's an ungraceful way that many humans treat this earth. And I'm included in this too. I still live in this modern world. I still buy products. But ever since then, I have definitely changed my own personal life. I create probably this much amount of trash a month now, and it's because of the system that I have in place. And that was my choice to leave the hospital, because of the amount of trash that I create. That was what ignited it, learning about the trash in the world and the pollution.
So I'm going to divert from our questions or from the focus of our discussion, because you've mentioned Earth so many times while you're speaking. Today happened to be Earth Day.
Yeah.
So what message, very concise message, would you like to leave with our listeners before we move on to discussing emotional independence?
I think the biggest thing for every human, as best as they can, is to have a individual self-transformation in which one builds an immense amount of self-worth and self-love, love with themselves, and a deep relationship with God, and rely independently on an internal oasis within themselves, with their soul and with God, so that they have the capacity to love other human beings and to love this earth. And if we were to all have an individual transformation, we naturally would shift as a species. We wouldn't need all these laws and all of these things that segregate us as human beings and still create conflict between us. We wouldn't need to create all of these materialistic things to fulfill our needs. It would be something that is just, it's something that is deep in the depths of every single human mind, is where God lies. And it's a very strange cosmic game that we're in, and it doesn't always make sense to me. But from what I understand, our focus shall be on God, and that our praise shall be on God and the earth and our soul. And when we do that and we shift our focus to that, things just naturally shift among humanity. There would be a lot more healing. Things would be, I think that's just a solution to solve all of our problems. And that may not be for everyone, but that's just what I found personally myself, because I have, ever since I've personally experienced this, I have transformed my life, and it's still evolving. And it's just an incredible thing. I truly wish for people to experience this grace and healing that I have.
How does personal transformation, the grace and healing that one obtains from or through the journey of that transformation, where does the earth fit into that?
Well, God made this earth for us. This is our heaven. And I'm not religious anymore, but I still, quote the Bible, because a lot of things that are said in the Bible and a lot of other scriptures, not just from Christian Bible, but from a lot of other, like the Quran and every other place, it says heaven is here. Heaven is right now. It's inside of us. And most people, sometimes I forget about it. We do not see the heaven here on earth, but God wants us to see that we are already in heaven. And it is not a place that we have to wait to go to die. God wants us to see the heaven here right now within ourselves. And there are things that have helped me see that easily. And I don't like that. Magical mushrooms can help. Even just microdosing can help, which are gifts that God gave to us on this earth, is plant medicine. And I truly wish that I can be able to see this more naturally throughout the day, without that extra help, without it, because plant medicine definitely heightens awareness, and it's just a really beautiful, powerful gift that God gave us.
Thank you. You mentioned mushrooms. Can everyone or anyone take mushrooms? And if so, after answering that question, what is the purpose? How can mushroom contribute to us becoming one with the earth as we were so created to be?
I wouldn't suggest everyone to do mushrooms, because there is not everyone to become aware or enlightened in their lifetime. Our souls were put on this earth for a purpose, for awakening, and it happens over lifetimes and experiences. And when someone becomes too awakened too quickly, they could either have a psychiatric breakdown or they could die. Because having that awareness, which I've I've maybe had a glimpse of it, and that was with the help of grandmother ayahuasca. But having that power and that amount of love and understanding of the capabilities that we have as human beings is overwhelming.
Mm.
And I don't suggest that, uh, no, not everyone should, because it could create some kind of psychiatric something terrible. Something could happen that way. But many people can, but that's not what I'm advocating for. People follow their own pathway, and if their pathway gets taken to plant medicine, then I highly suggest doing a little bit of curiosity into it. And well, mushrooms, magical mushrooms, there's all kinds of different types of mushrooms. They were put on this earth billions of years ago, and we evolved into human beings because of mushrooms. We are ancestors of monkeys. And the reason why our brain grew in double size and the reason why we transformed into the form that we're in right now is because monkeys ate mushrooms, and they would hallucinate, and they would start thinking. And their minds grew over time. Their brains grew over time in size and capacity. And I don't recall being there. Maybe long time ago. I believe that we're all reincarnated and that we were here before. Maybe I was there. I just don't remember my past lives. But we have evolved over time, and I don't understand the beginning of suffering or hatred or why we have all these other terrible things like violence and violation. There's a purpose behind every single thing. And we are here to evolve, because if you were to think of the heavens and having everything everyone wanted and everyone being happy and everyone being beautiful and having every single thing, we would get bored. I think that we want to be here as humans so that we can evolve and there can be something. We can't just have perfectness. There has to be something. And I think that for us humans, that I'm talking about a lot of humans too, but not a lot of humans like to admit this. I'm very naive. I'm still very innocent, and I still have a lot to learn. I know a lot of things, but there is a ton more that I do not know. And that is just something that I surrender to God with, and I think that things like plant medicine do help give insight for how to be more emotionally free and experience that freedom and experience that internal freedom and experience feelings of love, not just for oneself, but for other people, because that is our true nature as human beings. When we're children, we don't see the things that we're taught to see as humans, as adults. We have no problem with there's usually nobody that we have a problem with. We want to be around everyone as a child.
So the use of, if please, I just want to recap. Mushrooms can help us to become self-aware. Mushroom can help us to connect with self-love and with love for self and love for others. Mushroom
and with God
and with
and the earth.
God. Okay. And help us to understand the cosmos even better.
It can help us. Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Did I get that correctly?
Yes, yeah. It's more than that too. It helps us overcome some trauma, and it can help us overcome pain that we've been holding on to. It can help us overcome resentment and misunderstandings and anxiety. It can help us overcome and heal a lot of different aspects.
I'm going to invite you back for us to discuss this particular topic further in depth.
Okay, I'd love that.
I think it's important for others to hear and get an understanding, because I don't think everyone have a clear definition of the purpose. So moving right along or back to our discussion, you mentioned connection with God and God a few times. But let's say I am a client who comes to you in need of advice because I am spiritually connected and I feel unworthy of self-love. How would you advise or encourage me?
Well, I mean, I'd like to hear a little bit more of your history and what your current habits are. What are your thoughts about yourself and about other people? What are your relationships like? What's your external experience like? And I mean, that would just have to be like an analysis of getting to know each other at first. I always suggest meditation, and meditation and gratitude are the hugest things. I even forget myself too. There are times, if I'm having a hard time, I forget to be grateful, what to be grateful for, because in reality, there is a lot more good going on than bad. And our psychology, the way that we're in a society that diverts us from the majesty of being a human being, and being a human being is an extremely amazing experience. In the spirit world, they're nothing but love. They experience nothing but joy and love and freedom and abundance. They don't have physical bodies, though, so they can't experience the physical things that we do. And there are billions of cells within each individual human being. So even if someone has a million problems, they have a billion more things to be grateful for. And I'm not saying it can come off as toxic positivity. I think it's really, really important to be aware of what someone is experiencing and what they're feeling, and to honor ourselves and not to blame oneself and not to shame themselves or blame or shame anyone else. And a big portion of our human experience is through our responsibility of our emotions. And if we don't know how to regulate our emotions, and we're going to experience all kinds of difficult things. And meditation and gratitude are two things that can definitely change our perspective on a lot of things in our individual life experience, because our life is so short. And many of us, we experience so much pain. I feel like I've experienced more pain than joy as a human being. And I have experienced a lot of pain at the hands of other people, but it's usually that doesn't last longer. My pain is longer for my memory of it. That makes sense. And it's just releasing that. It takes time. This is kind of a complex thing. And I think it's just being gentle, meditation, gratitude, and just really being gentle on oneself and forgiving oneself.
Thank you, Jesseca.
Thank you so much.